Cloud computing is easily one of the most sought after domains when you talk about the current world. And when you talk about cloud computing, there are many people wanting to move their businesses to cloud and many people wanting to make a career in this domain by applying for probable certifications. That is why Great Learning brings you this video where we would be discussing the popular cloud certifications that are there in the market. Before we move further, I would like to inform you that at Great Learning, we have come up with Great Learning Academy initiative where there are 80 plus free courses that you people can register to, and on completion of these courses you would be getting a certification that you can add to your LinkedIn profile, that you can add to your resume, and that would hold value for you. Even if you are looking for a meaningful career related conversation, we have plenty of industry experts which serve and help you answer your queries at Great Learning Academy. So do register to Great Learning Academy. So let us now go ahead and take a look at the agenda of this video. We would start off this video by talking about what is cloud computing. We would discuss what are the popular cloud statistics, what cloud roles can you opt for, what are the probable certifications that cloud has to offer to us, be it your Azure certifications, AWS certifications, and more. Then we would talk about the questions that concern exam patterns, what fees you should pay, what are the languages in which you can take these exams, and then we would go ahead and talk about how can you go about the preparation part that concerns these certifications. So let's not waste any time and quickly get started. So what exactly is cloud computing? Again, if you people have not seen our sessions at Great Learning, make sure you visit Great Learning YouTube channel because we talk about some of these concepts in detail. So do not forget to subscribe to Great Learning YouTube channel where we've talked about AWS, Azure, and we've talked about quite a few other things, be it machine learning, data science, analytics, and a number of other domains. So do visit Great Learning Academy, do visit Great Learning YouTube channel and subscribe to both. Okay. So let's try and understand what cloud computing is in a nutshell. So when we talk about cloud computing, to keep it simple, it is nothing but an on-demand service offering. It can be your computation, storage, networking, database, security, machine learning, messaging, IoT, and a number of other domains. So basically, when you look for these kind of offerings which are offered to you on demand, something that you can access across the globe just using your internet, then these resources are called as cloud computing. Still not certain as to what cloud computing is? To keep it very simple, cloud computing is nothing but offering these services on demand. That means you can literally rent these resources. So you'd be paying for these resources on pay-as-you-go model. That means if you need a particular resource, particular service for like n hours and in n amounts, you can request for that service in those amounts and for that duration. And what cloud computing vendors do is they provide you that services or those services, and they also maintain and monitor these services for you. All you do is you consume those resources and services, and at the end of the tenure, when you're done using these resources, then you'd be billed for using those resources for that particular duration. So that is what cloud computing does. The other benefit is, since the vendors are managing your resources, you do not have to invest or worry about maintenance and monitoring of these resources. And also you can access these resources across the globe. The fact that cloud computing vendors operate in multiple countries through multiple locations, you do not have to worry about having access issues or having concerns as to where can you put your data and stuff like that. So that is what cloud computing is in a nutshell. These are some of the features that cloud computing has to offer to us. One of them is scalability. So when you say scalability, it is very different when you compare it with a normal on-premise infrastructure. What cloud computing does is it gives you an ability to scale instantly, be it seconds, be it minutes, and all your resources can scale. Now, the scaling is not limited to an increased scaling. You can even decrease when you talk about resourcing or basically reversing some of the resources into smaller sizes. Say, for example, you need a particular resource with a capacity of maybe 10 petabytes. So you can go ahead and start with that unit. And if you need to scale up, then you can actually go ahead and ask for upscaling, which happens instantly. Now, after a time, you feel that this upscaled resources way too much and you do not need these many resources. You can actually go ahead and scale down immediately. So when you say upscaling and downscaling, both is fairly feasible. You can even scale vertically and horizontally. So if you increase the capacity of a particular resource, it's called as upscaling. If you increase the number of machines attached to a single application, it's called as horizontal scaling. Okay, so this is the difference between the vertical scaling and the horizontal scaling. So when you talk about scaling, your cloud platforms support all of these, right? They offer pay-as-you-go model, as I've mentioned. They are very flexible. Some of these providers operate in 245 plus regions, giving you option of choosing from 200 plus services. So yes, you have flexibility. And since your data resides at different locations, you can back up your data. You always have more availability and disaster recovery. Okay, so this was about what cloud computing is in a nutshell, but I'm sure that many of you are here for the sake of certifications. So let's not talk about cloud computing from a conceptual perspective. Rather, just go ahead and understand why should you opt for these kind of certifications. How is the market faring right now? So let us now go ahead and understand some of the cloud statistics. So I'm going to put forth certain numbers which should interest you. To start with, when you talk about cloud computing, it is easily one of the most sought after skills as well in the market. So if you take a look at the screen, you'd see on the left hand side, we have the skills that company look to hire people based on, right? So if you take a look at the top 10 hard skills that company want, cloud computing makes its way to number 2nd position, right? What that indicates is it is highly popular and it lies above artificial intelligence and analytical reasoning. That tells you how widely it is being chosen these days, because given the fact that these days we just talk about data science, data analytics and artificial intelligence, the fact that cloud computing is preferred more as a skill, that tells you how popular it is, right? And if you talk about or take a look at other numbers as well, if you take a look at what are the skills when you talk about technical tools that or technical programming languages that people want you to learn, you would realize that there are quite a few charts out there. You can just go ahead and Google it. So there are numbers that suggest that AWS and Azure easily make it to the top 10 skills that people want you to have technically. Again, apart from that, there are other things as well which are not here on the slide. Say, for example, if you take a look at the investment that people are doing in this domain, by the end of 2021, it was expected that there would be 300 plus billion invented in public cloud domain. So that in itself tells you how much money people are willing to invest in this domain, because they see that this is the future. Due to Corona, these numbers might change, but however, I have a gut feeling that these numbers are going to rise, because even during the time of Corona, it was cloud computing that supported quite a few businesses, quite a few applications. We even saw government organizations moving to cloud. So that in itself tells you how popular cloud computing is, right? So this was about why cloud computing is so popular. If you take a look at the numbers as to why you should opt for this career from a salary perspective, an average employee in USA gets like $100,000 for a year if you talk about a starting or a mid-ranged cloud engineer salary. So this is a basic salary. It normally medians around 100 to 120K dollars, which is fairly good, right up there when you talk about data scientists, as in how much they make. If you compare it with people who have a lot of experience and expertise, it can go even as high as $250K dollars. So that also gives you a picture. The next thing is, if you take a look at the salary numbers in India, you can easily start with a salary of 6 to 9 lakh in India if you have relevant skills. And as you go higher or climb above the ladder, with a couple of years of experience or 3 years of experience, 4 years of experience, you can easily maximize on your salary and it can go way above the number that I've quoted. So it totally depends to how much time and skill you invest in these careers. But if your question is, can you start? Definitely yes, you can start, and it is a right place to start, and even to switch if you want to. How can you switch? What all do you need to know? This is something that we'll discuss as we move further. So this was about some of the cloud career statistics. Let us now go ahead and take a look at something else. So what are the roles that you can pursue? So when you talk about the roles, now you might be from a different domain, right? Because if you talk about cloud computing, many people have this question, can we make a career in this domain, right? You can be from a marketing domain. I normally get questions where people ask me, as in, I am from a civil engineering background, can I move to cloud? I'm from a chemical engineering background. Can I move to cloud? And there are people who are from relevant backgrounds as well, and they also have these kind of questions like, I am a DBA, can I move to cloud? I am a developer, can I move to cloud, right? I'm an architect, can I move to cloud? The answer is yes, you all can move to cloud, given the fact that you have knowledge about cloud computing and a will to study cloud computing. So if you can do that, definitely you can move to cloud. So what are the roles that you can pursue, right? So when you talk about cloud computing, now the roles are plenty, but these are the three major ones that cloud computing came up with. So because these are the roles to which people can relate the most. So when you talk about cloud applications, first thing that you can do is, one, you can either architect a cloud solution, you can develop it, or you can basically go ahead and maintain and monitor a particular application. So that is why what AWS and Microsoft Azure or other cloud platforms did was they converted their certifications into more role-based approaches. And that is why they came up with these three major roles. It's not that you don't have other roles as well. There are. We'll talk about that in a bit. But let's try and focus on these roles to a major extent, because this is where majority of your work will happen. Okay. So when you talk about an application, first thing is you need to be able to architect an application or an infrastructure. So when you talk about cloud computing, you can either move your application from an on-premise business to cloud, or you can build a new application on cloud. In both cases, you need a blueprint, some planning, right? Just like we design our buildings before we build them, architects do that for us. Similarly on cloud, if you are to move your existing application or build a new one, you need to have an architect who has knowledge about these things. So as an architect, you would know whether you can move a particular application to cloud or not. What are the cost strategies or cost optimizations that I can implement? What are the services that our developers would need to focus on? Do we need to rebuild the application, or can we refactor the existing application? Or can we move the existing application from an on-premise application to cloud directly? So these are the questions that a cloud architect answers. As a cloud architect, you are expected to have detailed knowledge of what cloud services are and what are the cloud services that a particular platform supports. Say for example, you are migrating the applications to AWS cloud. So you should be having knowledge of how AWS services work. You might not be implementing or building applications, but a knowledge is must. The reason for that is, unless and until you know how do these services work, you cannot plan for those. So having a detailed knowledge of them, understanding how much they cost and what are the factors we consider when we migrate or build new applications is something a cloud architect should know. Here the technical know-how is comparatively lesser. You are not expected to know technical programming languages or scripting languages to a very great extent. Basic knowledge of these would also work for you. Now once the design is there, the next role is your developer role. Now these are the people who build these applications. So as a developer, you would be responsible in bringing these applications to life, right? So you'd be building these applications from scratch, or you might be migrating existing applications. So if you do migrate, so if there's something that needs to be refactored or something like that, you as a developer would be doing that. Okay. You need to understand how the application would work in a cloud environment. So the knowledge of software development lifecycle, knowledge of building applications, programming languages, and DevOps practices is something that is very core to a developer. And this is where you need to be very technically adept. Once the application is ready, then it goes to an admin who basically maintains and monitors these applications on cloud. So as an admin, you might have already guessed your role would be to go ahead and maintain and monitor these applications, understand how do these applications can be handled on cloud, right, in the production environment. What do you need to know? You should have experience as an administrator. You should have knowledge of SysOps, or basically administrator activities on cloud. And basically you should still know some DevOps practices to support some of the activities that the developers do. So these are the popular roles that cloud services or certifications come in. Now, apart from these as well, there are other roles and other certifications, something that we'll be discussing shortly. So let us now go ahead and see what is the next bit that we need to talk about. So let's try and understand some of the cloud certifications. And when we talk about these certifications, we'll be discussing what AWS certifications are and Azure certifications are in particular. So while I talk about these certifications, I'll also go ahead and discuss some of the specialty certifications that are there on our plate. Okay, so let's do that. So let's first start by understanding AWS certifications to start with. So when we say AWS certifications, as I've explained, the role-based careers that you can opt for, right? So those three also exist here. Like you have your architect path, you have your operations path, that is your administrator path rather, and the developer path. So let's focus on these first and then let's talk about the specialty certifications, okay? So when we talk about these certifications, that is the architect, operations and developer certification. Now these are the role-based certifications, right? So first, in order to get these certifications, you have to take a step-by-step approach. First is your foundational level certification, that is a cloud practitioner certification. Now this certification is not mandatory, but it is advisable you take it because this certifies whether you have basic AWS knowledge. What they also expect is some 6 months of knowledge in AWS. That means you have been understanding what AWS is, how it works and stuff like that. Now do not take this 6 months of knowledge literally in timelines, right? Because there could be situations where you learn these things in a month's time as well. It depends how quickly you grasp things, right? So once you are certified as a practitioner, that tells you that you are good enough to go ahead with cloud computing. Now the next step is to choose a role. If you decide to be an architect and you do not like a lot of coding, then this is a good role for you. It has a separate path altogether. And as a solutions architect, right, what you do is you basically build applications, not build, you basically design applications. So for this, the first certification is associate level certification. What AWS expects is you to have knowledge that is equivalent to a 1 year experienced individual in AWS. So this is a basic level certification. So once you clear your practitioner certification, you can actually go ahead and opt for this. Some good preparation for like 5-6 months or maybe 4-5 months should be good enough to actually help you go ahead and crack this exam. Okay. So fees and all those things we'll be discussing in the further bits. But for now, once you get this certification, you are legit to go ahead and work as an AWS professional, and this certification will hold value for you because this validates that you are knowledgeable in this particular domain. Let's assume that you've been working as an associate and now you want to go ahead and expand or maximize your capabilities. Now, if you work for a couple of years and then you actually go ahead and decide to prepare further, you can actually get into the advanced details and opt for a solutions architect professional level certification, which gives you a degree of being professional in this domain. So when I say degree, I'm talking about the position. Do not take it as the literal book degree, right? That a graduate degree or something like that. It gives you basically a capability or something that certifies saying that, okay, you are good enough to go ahead and do this at a professional level. So these are harder exams. This exam is hard compared to the previous exam, and you would be required to prepare better for this. And after this exam, you can attain higher roles in an organization compared to an associate level certification. Same lies for your sysops and developer. The point that you need to note here is, in this case, if you opt for a sysops admin certification, you would be more into the admin side of things. And when you opt for a developer certification, you'd be more into the developer side of things. And if you want to specialize in it, for both these roles, you have DevOps certification, which is nothing but a combination of an admin or an operation individual and a developer individual, right? So this was about the role-based certifications. Apart from that, with these days, machine learning, networking, security, people wanting to make careers in these specific domains can still do it on top of cloud, right? If you choose AWS platform, here you can opt for certifications that concern data analytics, databases, Alexa skill builder, machine learning, advanced networking, and even security. So these are some specialty certifications that tell you that if you are interested in networking and you want to pursue that career, you can do that on top of AWS as well. If you are good at building machine learning applications, models, you can actually opt for a machine learning specialty certification, and your skills would be aligned with these roles. Now, these roles, the names that they have, they in themselves tell you what are the skills that you expected or you're expected to know on top of cloud. What you need to do here is you need to have a mix of skills. Say for example, if you pick a machine learning certification, you'd be expected to know machine learning and you'd be expected to know how machine learning tools or services work on top of AWS. So this was about AWS certifications. I would be answering more questions or that you might have in your mind, right? I'd go ahead and address those questions in some of the future slides, because I'm sure many of you by now have already started wondering, as in we need to know more about AWS certifications. So what is the fees? What is the duration? Type of questions asked. So I'll answer those questions. So before that, let's just go ahead and understand Azure certifications, right? What are the Azure certifications that we have on our plate? And then we would switch into the other consoles and try and understand or answer some of the questions that you people have, or you might be thinking about, right? So let's just do that. Let's just try and understand what Azure certifications are. So these are very similar to what AWS has to offer to you. Now, Azure had different certifications, but in last couple of years, they've also moved to role-based certifications and more stepwise certifications. So there was a lot of changing and chopping that happened. So even what you see on the screen might not be relevant because Azure has basically gone through a major overhaul of their certifications. So we'll talk about some of these when we get into the questions part, where I would be addressing the commonly asked questions by people. So that is where I'll talk about these as well. But to give you a simple picture, it too follows a similar step. In order to be a DevOps professional on Azure, you'll have to either choose a developer certification or an admin certification, like we have SysOps in case of AWS or an AWS developer in case of AWS, right? For that too, you'll also have to take an optional exam here. That is your AZ-900, which is common for all the certifications we take. So just like AZ-900 here, we have cloud practitioner certifications that AWS offers, and it is analogous to these certifications that you see on the screen. So AZ-900 is your optional certification. If you want to take an associate level exam, first would be your AZ-203, that is for a developer, 103 that is for your admin, and the 300 series, that is 300 for your associate level architect. Now, if you want to specialize, you'll go ahead and take these exams, that is AZ-400 for a DevOps engineer exam, and AZ-301 for your architect exam. Now, apart from that, you have a data engineer certification that Azure supports, that is the 200 and 201 exam, which you can actually go ahead and take. And for this too, 900 is the bare minimum or an optional exam that you can opt for. Okay. So let's just go ahead and answer some of the important questions that concern cloud certifications, right? So when we talk about the preparation part, what are the things that we need to consider? First is the questions that people normally ask. The first question would be, what are the kind of questions that these kind of exams have? Are these MCQs? Are these like practical questions? Are these write programs kind of questions? So these questions, when you talk about these certifications, these are not questions where you'd be asked to code. But there could be a question where a snippet is thrown in and you are asked to guess what could be the result, or a flow is given to you, a particular set of steps, and you would be asked as in, okay, if this is the flow, what is the outcome? So questions like these could be asked. Now, these questions are challenging when you talk about these exams. They're not easy questions, and you would be required to put in efforts. So when we talk about the questions asked, right, the questions can be like around 100 questions when you talk about an AWS certification, and for Microsoft Azure, they're like 45 to 60 questions that are normally asked. Okay. Now, when we talk about other things, what is the duration in which these exams test you on, right? So when you talk about the duration can be like around 3 hours. Okay. And when you talk about your Azure certifications, the duration is again similar, around 2 hours, roughly 2 hours to 3 hours is what these exams test you for. Okay. Now, the other question that you might have is, what are the languages in which you can take these exams? Now, when you talk about the languages like Chinese, Mandarin, English are the languages that are supported mostly. If you talk about fees, again, the fee structure has been uphauled when you talk about recent times. If you go back like a year back, Azure certifications were cheaper, but nowadays the prices are pretty similar. For AWS, you're charged like $150 when you take an associate level exam. And if you take a professional level certification, a specialty certification, you are basically charged around $300. If you talk about a Microsoft Azure exam, A standard fees or a normal fees is around $165. Let me quickly show you certain things, right? Let's quickly go ahead and take a look at some of the certifications. Let's visit the official page for this first. So if you look for AWS certifications and Microsoft Azure certifications online, you'll be getting all the information that you need. Whether you talk about the training and certification that you can opt for, right? I mean, if there's a particular certification that you're targeting, to some extent, AWS also has some basic training programs, right? So you have these things here. What are the partners that help you get information about certain career paths that you can choose? These are the learning paths, right? So these are the certifications that AWS offers. We've talked about them, and what career path you can choose. All that information is given here. Say, for example, if you click on the developer role, you see you'll get the developer roles details here. What path do you need to take, right? What exams you need to take. So you can take the certified practitioner exam, right? Then these are the topics that you'd be learning, and once you worked on these things, this is the certification exam you can take, and going ahead you can opt for the advanced level certification as well, right? What is the recommended progression? The information is here, right? In an order that you want it to be. Okay, so advanced, so this is your professional level process. So basically this is about the training path that they're talking about. Okay, so you can get all the information here for the training details if you need, right? And the certifications overview, if you click on it, you'll be getting the information about the certifications. So this is the standard page. We've already discussed these pointers at detail, and if you just scroll down here, you'll be having specific learning paths here, right? This is something that we just explored. So you'll be getting all the information here on this page, right? What is the fees that you're supposed to pay, right? And all the other information that concerns, right? If you look at FAQs, they'll answer all the questions. Like, you might wonder how long is the AWS certification valid. So to answer your question, it is 3 years. So after 3 years, you might be required to retake the exams, but the batch of your certification remains. I mean, you'll be getting, it would always be there with you that you are certified, but certain certifications, they basically are invalid after a duration. And if the syllabus changes, you might be required to take it again. Okay. So recertification, all the information would be here. In coming soon, you can take a look at the certifications that you might probably want to take, or what are the new things that are coming. So you'll get all the information here, because when you talk about AWS and Azure, their certifications transition into new phase. It's just like transitioning from one role to other, right? So they just don't go ahead and discard whatever certification they have. They actually go ahead and transition you into new certifications, because there would be certain people who are in the process of taking the exam. For them, just going ahead and discarding that certification would mean that some of the people who are in the process, they might be required to prepare for a new exam altogether, right? So there's a duration saying that, okay, after 6 months, 8 months, these certifications won't be valid. For people who've already taken this certification in recent times, say for example, if it is going to be invalid in 6 months, they'll have an interim exam saying that, okay, since you've taken this certification now, and your certification is to be valid for 2 years, why don't you take a bridge exam so we can roll out a new certification or the latest certification for you? So they have provisions for these kind of things as well. If you move to the AWS Azure part of things, you see all the information would be here, right? In Azure certification, this is for the solutions architect part. So if you browse for certifications, you'll be getting information for all these certifications, right? But individually, if you're looking for certifications, they have separate pages like these. You can see for Microsoft Certified Azure Solutions Architect, due to COVID-19, the situations would change a little, as in whether you can take these exams online or you have to go there and take these exams. All these things would be here, right? So what is the role, what are the exams that you're supposed to take, right? Certification levels, and apart from that, what are the skills that you'd be tested on? So this is something which is available for both these certifications. You can go ahead and look into it as well. Nowadays you have this option of applying for these 2 ways to prepare, right? So basically, if you want to take classes, you can do that as well, right? And this is about the certification. So if you take the architect exam beta version, it's like $165, right? And so if you choose other countries, let's see, I choose maybe India in this case, the fact that I'm taking this session from India. Let's look for India first, right? Oh, I've gone too up, is it? Let's see if I type I, what I get. Okay, there you go. So in India, it is like 4,800. So the fees is still the same. which is fairly less, because if you take it in USA, it's $165. So that's around 12,000-13,000 Indian rupees. So if you take it in India, the prices are quite affordable. So if you're planning to take this exam from India, again, it's a good thing for you. You can come here and schedule the exam. You can choose the languages in which you want to take the exam as well. So once you try and schedule it, you'll get that option. Do you see, for this example, this exam is available only in English. So you can choose different languages as well. At least a year back when I had looked into all these things, there were options of choosing different languages as well. But now I see the language is only in English. I'm not sure why that is the case. If you talk about Microsoft Azure in particular, the exam dates are basically valid for 2 years. I mean, if you take an exam today and you clear it, the certification that you get is valid for 2 years, unlike AWS, which is 3 years, right? Now, and there's one peculiar thing about these exams that you take. I said that the questions are multiple choice questions in most cases, but they test you in different ways, right? They can throw a case study, they can throw in a scenario, some piece of code, some logical question that concerns cloud computing and these certifications in particular. So the questions would come from the syllabus that is there, but they'll test you in different ways. And if you talk about Azure exams, you'll never know what is the fixed number of questions. That could vary for different people. So it's always in a range, saying that, okay, it's in the range of 40 to 60 questions that are asked. In some cases, it would be just 40 questions. In some cases, it could be 60 questions as well. So their marking is also not fixed. So they mark you on a graded basis, which is a little different. So that is why Microsoft Azure likes to keep things very secretive. So the way of testing candidates is a little different. So when you take these exams, these are the pointers that you need to consider. You might want to visit these websites and look for these courses for all the details that you need. Let's just go back to the presentation and discuss what are the steps that you need to take in order to prepare for these exams. So when we talk about the preparation part, right, you need to follow this path. One, you pick a role, right? So how do you go about it? First, decide what role do you want to pursue, right? Choose a vendor. Now let's assume you want to be an architect. So what vendor do you want to choose? Do you want to go with AWS, Azure? Do you want to choose other certifications? Please note that there are other certifications, like AWS has its own certifications. Similarly, Microsoft Azure and GCP also have their own certifications, right? So we've talked about Microsoft Azure, we've talked about AWS. So there's there's Google Cloud Platform as well, which offers similar certifications. So you can pick a vendor where you want to make a career on, right? And then pick a certification, right? What certification are you targeting? Once you do that, then the next step is to go ahead and work on certain practical implementations, knowledge, and then you go ahead and work on relevant projects. Once you've cleared these things, then you actually go ahead and think about CV and career hunt processes. Okay. Let's now go ahead and try and understand what are the things that you need to focus on. How much time do you need to invest in preparing for these exams, right? So what is it that you need? Spend like 2 weeks working on your basics. I'll talk about all these things in detail. Do not worry about that. Then some 4 weeks on cloud computing fundamentals. Then spend some 4 weeks for the vendors. Some 2 weeks for the projects that you work on. And some 8 to 12 weeks for the certification preparation as well. So guys, this is a whole laid out path. So even if you are somebody who is fairly new to cloud computing, so path defines all the time that would be required for you to work on. Say for example, when you do the maths, right, it's 10 weeks for you to prepare to get started with the certification process. And once you've spent this much time, this is when you can start working on the projects and basic certification preparations. Okay. So let's try and understand these one by one. Okay. So when you say 2 weeks for your basics, just try and get some basics out of your way. Okay. Like maybe you'd be required to brush up your Linux fundamentals, learn something about JSON and bash scripting, stuff like that. Some networking fundamentals, like spend some time brushing up these things. Then spend like 4 weeks working on cloud computing fundamentals. Try and understand how cloud computing has evolved, how it is different from on-premise infrastructure, right? Prepare or spend a lot of time doing that. In this time, you can also start working on your networking skills as well. So if you are somebody who's from a non-programming, non-tech background, you can utilize this time where you can learn about some of these fundamentals that I just mentioned. You can also spend your time working on what computer architecture is, what basic SDLC looks like, what are some technical jargons, what networking is all about. Learn these things in these 4 weeks. So continue your path. First 2 weeks basics and 4 weeks learning about cloud computing and all the fundamentals. Then once you're thorough with it, go ahead and pick a particular vendor. You have 4 weeks to explore these vendors, be it your AWS, Azure, GCP, IBM, whatever you want to choose, right? Choose one, start working with those vendors, those platforms. There's so much free resources that is available these days. Start working on those. Once you do that, then go ahead and start taking up projects. If you talk about AWS and Azure, there are hundreds of free projects that are available on their website. Good enough for you to actually get started. So do that. If you're somebody who needs training, right? So still ensure you prepare all these things first and then take a certification approach. This is where you'll start training. Either take a coaching if you feel, if not, refer the online documentation you have, projects you have, and start working on those. Now this is where you'll be needing good 2 to 3 months to prepare for a particular certification. By now you have all the fundamentals in place. The next 3 months, every day you need to spend 2 to 4 hours working on these vendors from a certification perspective. And I'm sure by the end of this duration, whatever I've mentioned, it's 6 months precisely, right? You should be able to go ahead and crack any certification that you choose for cloud. So I hope this path meets your needs. So that's it for this session. I believe you all have understood what cloud certifications are there in the market, right? And I hope that this session gave you some insight on it. So we've successfully seen some of the cloud fundamentals. We've talked about what are the popular cloud certifications. We've tried and answered some of the important questions that concern these certifications, and in the process, we've also seen what time do you need to invest in order to prepare for these exams and what do you need to prepare. Okay. So make sure you continue your journey in cloud computing and have a happy and successful career in the domain. As far as this video goes, we would be resting it here. Before that, I would like to inform you that at Great Learning, we have come up with Great Learning Academy initiative, where there are 80 plus free courses that you people can register to. And on completion of these courses, you'll be getting free certifications that you can add to your resumes that would hold a lot of value for you. So ensure that you register to Great Learning Academy and do subscribe to Great Learning YouTube channel for such interesting and informative content.